Hi guys! I had a very different plan for today's video. I was going to talk about something very different, and maybe I will film more than one video today. But then I realised that both of the video plans I had, they sort of interlink with each other. So I went ahead with my filming idea. I do write everything down because that's just part of who I am. So both of those ideas were on the list, and both of those ideas are going to be talked about today. One is mental health, one is the R word. For those who don't know, I have mental health issues, I have disabilities, both of which, like both those issues that I just mentioned, interlink and can make the other worse. However, I felt it necessary today to talk about both, because today is World Mental Health Day. And in general, in my life, in my family's life, it is very much an everyday thing, because it doesn't just disappear because you grow up. And the other thing is the R word. Now, for those who don't know, there is a day where people like myself, people with disabilities, we try and spread the message of end the R word. That isn't today, however, that is something that I live by every single day. The R word is retard. Throughout school, I was bullied, I was attacked, I was hurt, I was abused. I will go into that in another video. I was called the R word because people just see a rude, horrible connotation with that word. People like me with disabilities are called retards because we're seen as stupid, we're seen that we can't do things, we're seen as just lesser than those around us. Now, I don't know about the rest of the world, but a lot of my friends have disabilities or impairments that make their life a bit harder. That doesn't make them stupid. Everyone, regardless of whether they've got a disability or not, whatever kind of disability it is, has an intelligence to them, have something they're good at. And it really hurts when you're called a retard throughout your whole life. It really hurts when it was in the dictionary. Because people said, oh well, it's in the dictionary, I can use it. Well, yes, you can use it, but it doesn't mean you're being nice. It doesn't mean you're clever. It doesn't mean you're smart. It actually means that you're the ones without any sort of content about what autism or extra needs means. And it actually means that you're the one being dumb, because if you weren't that dumb, you wouldn't use that word. A little girl, for heaven's sake, a little girl fought so hard, I'm going to Google it, so that word would not be used in the dictionary anymore. Doesn't like it, apparently. Hang on, let's try that again. Now I know, I can't remember. I'm looking at it, I'm trying to figure out who it was that got rid of it. However, I can't find it. And it really upsets me because I know a little girl with Down syndrome, I think her name was Rosa, she fought so hard for that word, the R word, retard, to be took out the dictionary. Now I have just literally Googled retard on my phone to see whether it's gone off of when you search for it. It hasn't. Retard is still on many online dictionaries. And I'm sorry, but that is not acceptable. It shouldn't even be allowed to be spelled, let alone allowed to be Googled and end up in dictionaries. When a little girl, a little 9-year-old girl, fought so hard to get it out of real dictionaries that were paper dictionaries. It's not a nice word. Because I grew up hearing that word, being called that word, and people not being told off or not being yelled at or not being grounded and not being isolated for using that word against me and against many of my friends. I grew up thinking that that's what I was, that that's all I deserved to be, that that's all they wanted from me, that I wasn't worth anything. And I already had those issues anyway, because when you're bullied you get low self-esteem, because as soon as you start getting bullied, if it doesn't stop for a long time, or at least this is my experience, I'm talking about my experience, you do end up with low self-esteem. I went through my teenage years with crap self-esteem. My mental health issues got worse. For years I dealt with mental health issues that weren't diagnosed until I was in college. I went through years of mental health issues because one of my conditions, which I've spoke about before, non-verbal learning disorder, one of the main symptoms of it is low self-esteem and anxiety. So I went through years of low self-esteem and anxiety anyway, and bullying just made it worse. We don't choose to have disabilities, so people need to learn to choose their words carefully. Just the same as people with mental health issues don't ask for those. Like, we don't go up to the gates of God and say, can I have this condition, please? That isn't how it works. Or you don't go to whoever you believe in before you're born or once you're born and ask for these conditions. Neither would your parents. That's not how it works. That'd be really weird if that's how it worked. That would also be completely backwards, because if that's how it worked, then you could go to God, as I believe in God, and I would ask him to take them away from me. Or you could go to whoever you believe in before birth or just after birth and say, please do not give me these. And that'd be fantastic, but that just isn't how it works. Mental health issues don't go away. Depression is not just being sad for a day. It's not just not wanting to do your favourite interested things for a day. It's not just being quiet, being alone. It is not just that. Depression is not just that. Depression is an agonising, scary, lonely, dark place that you never want to go to, but somehow you're drawn to that hole every time. Depression does not go away. You can learn to manage it. There's medications that help, therapy that helps, art therapy that could probably help, and family that help, but it doesn't go away. It's not just a game. Like, I've heard people say, oh, I'm depressed today, and it's like, no, you're not. You're really not. Trust me, you don't know what that means if you're saying that. It's the same with anxiety. Anxiety is not just someone biting their nails. Anxiety is not someone picking their nails. Anxiety is not someone just saying, I'm anxious. Anxiety, again, obviously I'm just speaking on my behalf, for me, is not wanting to move from your bed because you don't know what you want to do. It is not being able to reach the door and not freak out. It is not being able to get on with your day because you're stuck on one thing. It's like being glued to your spot or glued to your space and not being able to move again. Anxiety is having to deal with thousands of thoughts running through your head and not knowing what to do about them. Anxiety is not knowing who to go to when you want to hurt yourself. Anxiety is trying to find ways around it, and some days achieving it and some days not achieving it. Now, as they're the only two I've really dealt with in terms of mental health illnesses, they're the only two I can speak on. However, coping skills that I have unfortunately had the way of dealing with and coping with my mental health is something I can speak about. I have self-harmed. Now, I haven't, in 502 days, because as soon as I moved out I made sure to keep a track of it, but I have self-harmed. I self-harmed pretty much all the way through my teen years. I self-harmed at 7 when I got really overwhelmed and really upset and carved the word evil into my arm. because that's how I felt, because I couldn't communicate how I felt, because I didn't know what to do, because I was just overwhelmed, scared, anxious, and just down to the ground, burned out. I have made myself sick because I didn't believe I was the right shape or the right person or the right body for something, because people have called me fat, so I wanted to erase that memory and knew that this is how we would deal with it. I have watched The Inspiration. I have took tips from The Inspiration, which for anyone who doesn't know is actually I'm just going to put a trigger warning here because I'm not sure whoever watches my video, but The Inspiration is what people with some, not all, people with eating disorders watch in order to keep going with their not eating, not drinking, or binging and then being sick, or eating and then being sick, depending on which area of the spectrum of eating disorders they lie on. Now I have only done one of those. I've only made myself sick, but I have tried to starve myself before, and I was useless at it, in all honesty. But I have done that. I have watched it. I have been there and watched it so many times because I thought it'd help. In reality, it just made my head worse. It really did, to the point where when I was in college, they brought a specific counsellor in to actually make me talk to them. I think I meowed at them, yelled at them, didn't want to go again. When that was stupid because they were trying to help. Mental health, in terms of how it's affected me and my coping skills, is slightly odd because I learned during adulthood that I can do other things to distract myself from those thoughts. But throughout my teen years, throughout school and college, I made myself sick. I watched The Inspo. I self-harmed. I didn't eat very much. I did all the walking to try and lose weight. And I basically ruined my head. I literally could not function. And because the demon, is what I call mental health for the record, was there and it encroached and got so entethered with every other aspect of my life, it was there forever. It was there when I didn't want it to be. It was there during the night. It was there during the day. It was there when I was actually actively trying to ignore it. So regardless of what steps I took, that demon was still there. But I kept going. I kept doing. And I realised very, very fast, once I got out of the situation I was in, which was being bullied, which was being attacked, which was being hurt, which was being just seen as disabled, because that's realistically what people saw me as a retard, as they would say. I found healthier coping mechanisms, safer coping mechanisms. Yes, I still self-harmed occasionally, but it wasn't nearly as enough as I did. As much as I did even. I learned that drawing helps me. I learned that writing it down helps me. I learned that taking extra breaks help me. I learned that fairy lights help me, swings help me, sensory toys help me. For those who don't know, I do have a tour of my sensory box. I will link it if I can find it again. That eating small amounts more often helped me. That talking once I'd written it down helped me. That playing sports, being a dancer, being a trampoliner, being anything I could be helped me because it gave me a distraction from those scary thoughts I had. Medication is a huge help. That is another thing that really helps. I take medication and I'm not ashamed of that. I mean, it's changed my head, but that's a positive. I'm not as depressed. I'm not as anxious. I'm able to function. That's the important thing. Medication isn't something to be scared of. Therapy isn't something to be scared of. If you need it, you need it. The word retard really screwed my head up. It did so much damage. It did so many scary things to me. It really upset me. It made me cry, and actually I think that made it worse, because once they realised I was crying, they realised they'd technically got the power over me. So I'd spend a lot of time just doing my best to not cry in front of people, which in turn also screwed with my mental health. However, as I grew up and grew older, I learned to ignore them. I learned ways of fighting against them without them being negative ones. I learned that I am stronger than that word. I'm stronger than anxiety. I'm stronger than depression, and I can do it. I did use a lot of forums growing up that helped me get through that stage of struggling and not having anyone to talk to. And I realised that a lot of people that watch YouTubers like myself, I also do it. Watch them to help them with their mental health, watch them to help them get through a day, talk to them. Many people talk to YouTubers they like to get them through mental health, to get them through a tough time with family, etc. I've done exactly the same thing. I've used forums, I've talked to YouTubers, I've talked to friends, talked to family, not every bit of family obviously, and I've just done what I can to survive. That's what mental health is, that's what disability is. It's doing what you can to survive. And it shouldn't be like that. Mental health should not be seen as something to survive, but it also should be normalised a little bit, because you don't sit there acting as though it's okay when someone's visibly hurt, do you? You don't act as though it's okay when someone's visibly hurt, but people with mental health issues are not visibly hurt. It's usually invisible because we keep it inside until we know we're at a safe place where we can use it, express it, and well, not use it, but express it and say it out loud. So why do we ignore this lot of people that are invisibly hurting and not this lot that are visibly hurting? It shouldn't. We shouldn't ignore them. People with mental health issues are still good people. People who are disabled, who have been called retards, are still good people. We still have gifts and thoughts and prayers and ideas and abilities, and they don't need to be covered up. They don't need to be bullied out of us. They don't need to be attacked out of us. They don't need to be erased by the R word. If anything, people with mental health issues and people with disabilities need to be encouraged, need to be loved, need to be cared about, need to be understood, need to be listened to, just like any other person who's neurotypically developing. And you can't just say, oh, I don't want to because you're disabled. Oh, I don't want to because you're retarded. Please never say that. Please never, ever say the R word. Or, oh, I don't want to because you're mentally ill. That's not how it works. You cannot say that sentence. You cannot not help someone just because you don't want to. You need to start everyone needs to start treating everyone with a little bit more respect, a little less idiocy, and maybe a lot more compassion. Everyone should be treated with compassion and understanding and support, and everyone should be able to express themselves without a problem, without being called the R word, without being called dumb, without being called an idiot, and without feeling like they're going to get in trouble for it. I mean, that's the issue, isn't it? Everyone who's getting worse in their mental health probably don't feel like they can actually speak out about it. But I am here to say, if you need to speak out about your mental health, about your disability, about the help you need because of your disability or mental health issues, that is okay. That is positive. That is a good thing. Don't hide your talents under a bush because you're scared people are going to find out you're disabled. Don't hide your wonderful spirit under the bush because people are not clued up about disabilities or mental health issues. Find a way of getting it out. Find a positive in the negatives. I know that's hard, believe me. It's very hard. Done it, been there, got the t-shirt, but it can be done. Maybe you need a little extra help. That's okay. But please, for the love of God, if you are going to see people with mental health issues and disabilities and call them the R word or call them something nasty, you need to go and check yourself over, because the R word is not acceptable. No matter what you say, no matter how you say it, it is not an acceptable name. It is not an acceptable word, and it should not be said. No matter what, that word is not acceptable. Just the same as calling someone with a mental illness crazy. That is not acceptable. Please use your head, use your brain, be kind. That's all I ask of people. Be kind. Regardless of who you are facing or what you are facing in life, be kind. And please don't use the words that are so untrustworthy, that are so nasty, that are so not worth being used. These people with disabilities and mental health issues still have feelings. Be kind. And before I go off, anyone wondering where the dog is currently, he's what I've been petting. He's there. Just before I go off, just because I always get a question in my DMs asking where the dog is, I promise he's here. I promise he's still alive. He's just sleeping next to me. So we're going to say bye, guys. And I'm going to go chill out because that video made me very anxious.